Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and evolve the modern-day deer hunter. Hi everybody, how are you doing today? Hope you're having a wonderful... Well, you could be listening to this anywhere, but where I am right now, it is raining, cold, windy, kind of nasty, but kind of love this weather, this kind of year. It feels like deer hunting weather. And it is Halloween day, the eve of Halloween, Wednesday, the October 31st, and we're right in the golden weeks of deer hunting. The month of November is awesome. I mean, the whole month, really. October is just kind of a bonus. I use it as a lot as just getting out with my gear and getting prepared and finding holes in my equipment and just kind of getting my game face on because month of November, man, can't beat it, and it's here. So I'm going to put out a couple additional podcasts here through the next week or two. We're getting geared up, loaded up, packed up to head north about a week from today. We're heading up for 10 days. We're going to bow hunt up to the opener of Firearm, and then our Firearm opener is on Thursday, November 15th. And we're going to gun hunt Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. And then come home Sunday afternoon. So we get to go up north for a full week. And I got the guys coming over. Today's Wednesday, Friday evening. Drew and Ryan, possibly Bomber, are going to join me in the garage, and we're going to kind of talk about what's been going on for us hunting the last couple weeks, and probably talk about a little bit of strategies on how we plan to hunt the rut, capitalize here on the month of November, and we're going to talk about our plans for camp, where we're going, what gear we're taking, kind of our strategies for approaching our bow hunting leading up to gun hunting, and then we'll talk about our locations and strategies for, our firearm opener and the few days after that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to those guys getting over here. We haven't seen each other, talked to each other much here in the last couple weeks. It's just been chaos. Ryan's been down in Ohio hunting. Those guys been working a lot. We've all had different things going on, so it'll be fun to have them over Friday, and that'll be, next week's episode at our regular scheduled release date, which I'm sure people know by now. I usually get these things up, usually late Monday night. I'm assuming most people listen to them, on Tuesday, but this is going to be a little bonus episode this week. And this is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a while. It kind of revolves around, there's a lot of conversation nowadays about getting people into hunting. Not just kids, but, people in their 20s and in their 30s that actually have, the financial means to go buy hunting licenses and get in their car and drive to a location to hunt and purchase gear and consciously do these things for themselves versus a parent, getting a kid into it There's a lot of talk about it, but you don't hear from a lot of people that actually fit that ticket. And the reason is because not many people do. I have people tell me all the time, "Oh man, hunting sounds badass. I'd like to do it." Yeah, I'll wait on that phone call. And no, I won't wait on that phone call because I just hear that so much, and I get it. People got things going on, and it's hard to do. And there's a ton of information that you need to learn to be able to go out and do this. But I wanted to talk with somebody that actually followed through and did it. And so my guest is Dayna Monroe, and she works at Kifaru. She started there about a year ago. She moved from out of state. She kind of just she started getting into archery, and then it drew her in, and she's like kind of fell in love with hunting. So you'll get to hear it from not only her perspective as somebody that's in their 20s and started hunting and what it's taken her to this point, but also female perspective. You know, there's adds a level of complication when looking for gear and, you know, friends to hunt with and all that. So it's just a little different than your stereotypical dude that's got a bunch of buddies and joins them in deer camp, like maybe us Midwesterners are, used to. So it was a good conversation. She's a great guest. I was happy to have her on. And enough talking. Like I said, beginning of the week, we'll get caught up here in the studio. And then I got a couple guests lined up, some good guests lined up here for next week. The guys from Prime G5 are going to come into the studio. And those guys Prime G5 is like 20 minutes from my house. Their world headquarters is right here down the road from me. So I've known those guys for a while. It's going to be cool to have them in here and talk about some products and how they got, how that whole thing got started. And, they've both been on bow hunts here recently, traveling around the country, I know. So should be good conversation. And then I think we got the guys from Dark Timber Coffee Company coming on here some point this week or next week. And then I talked with Jeff G over at the Hunting Beast. He's got some stuff that I thought would be useful information for, like I said, taking advantage of these next couple weeks, because this month of November, it's as high of a percentage of a chance as you're going to have probably all year, I would say. I know you hear a lot of talk around, early season and late season, and personally, that's never been my experience. Usually, like Halloween to, the whole month of November is probably when I've shot 90% of the deer that I've been able to take. So we'll get all that stuff uploaded here in the next week or two and get to this conversation that I had last night with Dayna. Thanks for listening. Everybody have a great day. So, did you move to Colorado to work at Kifaru, or did you move to Colorado and then get a job at Kifaru?
I moved to work at Kifaru.
You did?
Yes.
How long have you been there now?
Just over a year. I think about 14 months is how long I've been there.
And where did you move from?
I moved from Salt Lake, Utah.
Okay. Did you move on your own or with family or a boyfriend or any of that?
Nope, just all on my own.
Did you?
Just kind of picked up, and big life change coming out to Colorado.
No kidding. What was I'm just curious what the job description was for, like customer service or?
Yeah, yep, customer service, helping Frank and Aaron out with a little bit of the marketing, helping just kind of fill in wherever they needed help. I
gotcha. Awesome. So what did you do? Just pick up an apartment and start looking at places in Colorado to?
So I have a friend, a family friend that I kind of grew up with. She lived out here, and so I was in contact with her, and I asked if I could kind of stay with her for for a while until I could get out here and actually find a place of my own. And so I stayed with her for about a week, and then I just kind of found an apartment and moved right in. So it all just kind of happened really fast.
Nice. I mean, you're in the Denver area, obviously. Are you in Denver, or are you more out towards where Kifaru is?
I'm a little bit west of Denver, so I'm in just one of the suburbs west of Denver, closer to the mountains.
How are you liking it so far? Like translating from where you did live to Colorado, it's a pretty interesting place. I guess Colorado is a broad term because like Denver is its own, seems to be kind of like its own little beast. From what I saw when I was out there in comparison to some other spots in Colorado, right?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't really explored quite as much as I want to, but it's fairly similar to Utah. I mean, it's very outdoor oriented, like Utah. You know, really really close to the mountains. That's kind of the draw of Colorado, and that's very similar to Utah. So it honestly doesn't really feel that different to me living out here.
And so the outdoor thing was similar. Was your family big in the outdoors growing up? Did you guys hunt and fish or recreate or?
Um, my dad has always been a hunter. I did not care for it absolutely one bit growing up, and I grew up in a pretty large hunting community, I would say, but I just never had any interest in it because I was a kid and I was always doing other activities and spending time with my friends, and so I never really liked it that much. And then I kind of got more into the why of hunting, and I think that's really what catapulted me to where I am now.
So did you start getting into it before you moved to Colorado, or I mean, in the conversation that
Yeah,
we had, you had kind of alluded to had grown up around hunting, but really didn't partake in it until just recently, really, right?
right. Yep. So I think I started hunting, or I picked up a bow and then started hunting maybe a year before I moved out here, a year and a half or so before I moved out here. And so I'm very new to the whole hunting thing, and especially the bow hunting thing, because my dad rifle hunted. So I absolutely very, very new to the bow hunting thing.
Uh, Elk or mule deer. I'm honestly not very familiar with what hunting's like in Utah.
Yeah, it's mostly deer, mule deer, and elk when he could get one. It just would depend on whether or not he drew a tag and whether or not he had time to go out and hunt.
Did you ever go with them when you were younger?
I went. I remember going on one trip. He went out with a couple of his brothers, and a couple of the kids came along, and just kind of hiking around and not very successful hunt, but it was good to kind of spend the time with family.
Yeah, right on. I mean, for me, that's still, even though I've been hunting for 25 years now, and I'm obviously like deeply invested in it. Time with the family thing is still like right at the top for me.
Right. Yeah.
Did
Definitely.
did you what I mean, what was the it's kind of like a big step, I think, from picking up a bow and shooting a bow to actually making the decision to be like, I think I'm going to purchase a license this year and go hunting. Was it like something specific that happened that made you choose to do that, or was it just like compiling, I guess, eagerness to try it out?
Um, it kind of started. I started getting a little bit more into like the fitness thing, and I was working out quite a bit, and then that kind of translated into the healthier eating, and that kind of translated into the harvesting your own meat, the very organic meat. Like, I mean, obviously it's the most organic you can find,
Right.
and so it kind of started that way, and then I got more. I kind of started seeing social media played a big role in it. I started seeing people shoot bows, and I had no interest at first, but then it just kind of it looked pretty cool, so I had to try it out. And then the first time I shot a bow, I was absolutely hooked.
Really?
So yeah, I from there I was set on buying my first bow, but I had no idea how to go about that. So that was an interesting kind of obstacle that I had to figure out by myself.
So that's been just over what? I mean, that was about 2 years ago. You said so. You're like a couple years into this mission.
Yeah, yep. Probably 2.5 years ago is when I bought my first bow.
Okay. What do you think's been the hardest thing to like take in or figure out or understand, or is it all equally difficult?
Oh, I it's all very difficult. I never imagined that it would be this difficult, and I have a I have a hard time being bad at things, and so when hunting is like the ultimate test of a person, I think, because you're up and down and emotions are just spiraling, and it really really tests you. And I think there's so much to it, and so many little intricate things that you cannot really know unless you've been out in the field.
Right.
And I think that's probably the thing I've struggled with most, because I've I've tried to educate myself on everything that I can without being in the field. And when it really comes down to it, it's that time spent in the field that I'm really lacking, because I've only been doing it for I've been bow hunting one year, and I went on a rifle hunt the year before. So it's a learning experience for sure.
Right. And yeah, your hunting season's like what, a month or two long. I mean, you're literally getting to go out a handful of times, and with reality of like balancing a job and everything, right?
Right.
It's not like you're sitting out there for a whole month. So yeah, you're limited to like, at most it seems like a couple weeks in the field a year, and you got to try to pick it up in that time frame.
Right. Yep. I basically had, I think, the last week of August and then the whole month of September to go out and chase elk.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a full-time job, so I was, as a weekend warrior, and just that limited amount of time didn't work in my favor this year.
Did you have any good encounters this year? I mean, did you ever? I mean, you talked about the ups and downs, and I mean, a good encounter. It's like, I don't know, that adrenaline spike is a real thing. I think that's why a lot of people get hooked on it. Did you have any good encounters this season?
Yeah, I did actually. I was with, I was lucky enough that a couple people invited me out, but I think it was the second to last week of the season, and we just hiked up about halfway up a ridge, and we're just going along a game trail, and we bumped a whole herd, and there was a really big bull, but I had no shot on him, and so I just kind of, I don't know, I almost froze, and that kind of goes into time in the field as well. But I I froze a little bit and then got an arrow knocked and didn't have a shot on the bull, and then we tried to kind of back up so we didn't blow him out of the spot, and then the cows kind of just took all the others away, and we didn't find them again. But it was super cool, awesome. I mean, awesome learning experience, but just couldn't capitalize on it.
Yeah, no one can explain to you unless you've been there and done it. Like when you're actively hunting something and you have an encounter and your brain starts to think, hey, this could happen. Like the active process of knocking an arrow and like starting to get ready, and you're like, holy shit, like this is crazy.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been addicted to that adrenaline spike, like seriously addicted to it. You know what I mean? Like it just keeps me coming back at it. I think that's why so many people do get entrenched in it, is because that is like a hard thing to replicate.
It is, and there's no way to train for that either. Because I mean, I'm in the bow shop pretty much every single day, if not, maybe 5 to 7 days a week shooting my bow.
Yeah.
And so all the confidence in the world shooting wise, but when you get a huge elk in front of you, a huge deer, anything in front of you, there's no way to prepare yourself for that. So it's you just got to get out there.
You're 100% right, and it's all about the time. Like I kind of relate it to like a quarterback in a football game. Like if you could be like a good high school quarterback and then get thrown in the NFL, and then you're probably not going to have a good day. But you take a professional, like top tier quarterback like Tom Brady, and he literally can like slow down time and like figure out how to do these things in fractions of a second under insane pressure. And the only way to do that is to have encountered that situation 100 times before and know how to deal with it. And I just screwed up on a deer hunt here last week and missed a deer, and it was because I hadn't shot at a deer with my bow in over a year, and I haven't been getting out much, and I've been practicing but not doing the things that I now in hindsight needed to be doing. And I'm just like, yeah, there's no replication for being out here and getting this experience, and I'm glad it happened to me early in my season, so that, like, I can plan for it and adjust for it. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So are you hooked though now, you think? Like,
yeah, for sure. It sucks that I have to wait a whole nother year to go out, because everything I learned, I'm ready to go out and apply that now. And I don't want to have to wait another season or another year to go and chase elk in the mountains again.
Yeah, there's no other seasons for any large game or anything in Colorado now at this point. I mean, antelope seems like that happens real early. Everything's kind of done and over with there. I mean, it looks like your seasons are a little bit ahead of, obviously a little bit ahead of ours here in the Midwest. I'm in Michigan, so like our deer season really is just starting to ramp up.
Yeah, so it's into rifle season now. So I don't really rifle hunt.
Okay.
I prefer the bow. And so, sorry.
That's okay. We should specify that you're making cupcakes just so anyone listening knows what the noises are.
Yes. Yep. I'm multitasking here. Archery season kind of starts, antelope starts mid-August, goes to like the end of September. Elk and deer start the end of August, go through the end of September, and that's pretty much the whole archery season. And then I think I'm not totally sure on all the rifle seasons, but they have a couple different seasons, and that starts after archery's over.
And you don't have like no late archery or anything like that?
I know if you have some of the later rifle hunts, you can use your bow,
Okay.
but not a lot of people do, just because it's not very effective that late in the year.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, same goes here. In our state, after our
Yeah.
gun season's closed, you can go back out with archery equipment, but you're going to get about 2% of the population that's going to be willing to do that. One, temperatures are terribly frigid, and two, the deer are just pretty spooked at that point, and it's pretty tough
Yeah.
going.
Oh yeah, I'm sure once they're pressured and hunted for so long that it's very difficult to get them to anywhere near you.
So one of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation with you particularly tonight is because there's always like a ton of talk of hunter recruitment and not just like getting kids to go hunt because kids don't have cars and kids don't have income and they have to rely on their parents. There's a lot of talk about getting people in their 20s and in their 30s and even in 40s and 50s to go hunt, and I think it's like an intimidating thing. As you get older, people are less inclined to try new things. And so there's like a lot of talk about trying to get people to do that. But since you are one of the people that have actually done that, do you feel like there's something that the hunting community could be doing as a whole to do a better job and make it like I don't want to say like an easier learning curve, but I don't know, is there like resources that you utilized, or I guess what's your kind of your overall opinion when you hear that conversation going on, being is that you are one of the people that fit that description?
Um, well, I mean, there are so many resources out there if you are interested, but I think it's really sparking that interest that's probably the most difficult, because so many people just have such negative views on hunters and what hunting is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably the best thing that we can do as hunters is reach out to those people and educate them, like why we do this, why we want to harvest our own meat, and just the real reason behind it, not to just go shoot as many animals as we can.
Right.
It's there's so much more to it than that. And showing them that we're going out and we're practicing, we're spending all this time and really trying to hone our skills. And a lot of people will respect that. One of my sisters is actually, she's really not a big fan of hunting, and I had this conversation with her, and she was telling me how she really respected the whole bow hunting aspect, because because it is so difficult, and she sees all the work that I put into to really master my craft, and she really respects that part of it. And she may not not quite grasp the whole idea of why I hunt and why I'm out there killing an animal, but she will respect it, and she understands why I do it.
Yeah, I gather that. Um, but to get someone to generate interest, and then I've found I can generate interest with a lot of people. Like I can have the conversation and get them to be like, "Yeah, I get that. That sounds cool." But like to actually get them to go through the effort, is it just a personal thing where they have to want to do it? I mean, I guess like you were alluding to, like the social media presence of it being a more
Yeah.
a different than just the guy that's driving around with a truckload of beer cans in the back and a bunch of dead deer stacked in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there does need to be some interest. I mean, it's not for everybody, and really getting that interest is going to be the hardest part. But a lot of people, they'll show interest, and then they realize that it's not as pretty as social media or all the hunting shows make it look like. And so maybe giving them a more realistic expectations on what it's going to entail is probably another thing that we could show to new hunters that are just kind of showing some interest.
Have you had any scenarios like negative interactions with people since you're, newer with it, or would you say as a whole, like, the hunting community is a pretty friendly group of people that are pretty willing to, like, what's your overall impression of, like, joining the hunting community?
Um, the hunting community is they're very inclusive, and they want people to come out and learn. The Really the only negative part that I've experienced is, I mean, I'm 26, I'm single. It's hard to find people who are willing to take me out, because most people that are experienced hunters are men, and maybe their wife, their girlfriend, they're not going to be comfortable with them taking a young girl out in the field backpacking, hunting, just kind of whatever.
Yeah, I
And so
get that.
that's been the hardest thing, is just finding somebody willing and able to kind of show me the ropes, because I have my dad, he's back in Utah, but he doesn't bow hunt, and his health doesn't really allow him to hunt the way I want to hunt. And he doesn't really have a lot of time to take me out. And so that's kind of the one negative aspect, but I found a lot of resources to overcome that, pretty much.
Would social media potentially be one of those where you can kind of ID people that have the same hobbies? I mean, I have friends that I deer hunt with now that I've met through, social media. Has anything like that happened for you, or?
I've definitely made friends through social media. I moved to Denver, and I posted something, and there was this really, really sweet girl commented, and she sent me a personal message, and she was like, "Hey, I'm pretty new to the Denver area," and she I think was kind of a new hunter, but very much more experienced than me. And so she reached out, and we developed a friendship, and that was really cool. But social media has been a huge help, just introducing me to certain people in the area who do have the same interests, and that I kind of click with, and I'm able to go out and scout, just hang out with, shoot, all sorts of things.
I kind of did think about it, but that's the reality of it, is for sure, like, as a guy, I could just, like, message some guys and, hey, you want to go hunting? Yeah, no problem. But as yourself, being a girl in her mid 20s, like, you can't just message guys that are in relationships and say, hey, yeah, like, yeah, wives and
Yeah.
girlfriends are going to be like, yeah, that's a cool story. That's not happening.
Exactly. And so it's rough, but I'm making it.
Well, I have to imagine there will be some potential suitors that will have to be looking for to be in a relationship with somebody that shares their same and common goals and interests. And gosh, man, it's
Yeah.
you're talking about people that are getting into hunting a little later in life. I mean, especially when you add the female aspect of it, right? It's just, does it add you complication to it, or you think it would be just as difficult of a task if you were a guy?
I don't think it would be quite this difficult for a guy, because it's a lot easier for them to go out to their friends and be like, hey, I want to get into this. Like, let's go out, let's get a group. They typically have a buddy that hunts that's willing to take them out. And I have a lot of people that helped me out this year and took me out, and I am beyond grateful for all of them. So I am super lucky in that aspect. But that took me coming out here, being in this position that I'm in at Kifaru. And I think that had a big influence on all of the opportunities that I had this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine you would have some resources that the average person doesn't.
Yes, yeah, I am very lucky in that way.
What about gear? Have you had a hard time? I mean, I look at gear a lot. We do a lot of gear reviews. We're always playing with new clothing and backpacks, and here for us, it's tree stands and archery equipment. And it's like it's not rocket science, right? There's a lot fewer options for women than men.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing that I look at all the options for men because I have a bit of an obsessive personality. So like when I get into something, I really get into it. So I started shooting a bow and I just, went just immersed myself completely and was shooting every single day, trying to learn, listening to other podcasts, watching YouTube videos, like just trying to absorb all the information that I could. And that's a lot of what I've done with the gear and I mean, obviously I have, some of the best in the business with Frank and Aaron. And so if I have questions, I go and ask them. They give me recommendations. I'll listen to their podcasts about gear, and and I mean they're huge influences on everything I do. And it's nice because I don't necessarily have to try stuff out to know if it works or know if it's one of the better options. And so I take a lot of what they have experienced and what they've gone through, and then kind of build my gear list off of that, and then off of what's available for women along like the clothing lines and all of that.
Have you done? Have you done any of the backcountry stuff like the overnighters and whatnot yet?
Yeah, yep. I tagged along last year with one of the guys from work, and then this year I backpacked in a couple times, and I love that. I honestly prefer that over hunting out of like truck camping, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So, run down a little bit of your. Let's specify this. The weather conditions in Colorado are pretty crazy, right? I mean, from what I saw, it can be sunny and 80 and then be like 45 and pouring rain and then be snowing and sleeting. I mean, the weather changes there. It's like ridiculous, right? So you have to be prepared for kind of like a wide array of temperatures and weather climates when you're going out like that, correct?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, yesterday it was sunny and 75, and today it's snowy and about 35. So it can change at the drop of a hat. So you can always look at the weather forecast for the area you're hunting, but if you're backpacking in, a few miles, you've got to pack everything that you may need for any type of conditions. So it's having your gear dialed is very important when you're doing stuff like that.
And what would you say that the percentage of time that when you're hunting out there that you're like sitting still or glassing or waiting versus like actually physically being on the move?
Um, it'll kind. You still there?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, sorry.
it's okay.
Okay. Um, you're sitting a lot. Elk hunting, you don't glass quite as much. If you're high country mule deer hunting, you're glassing a ton. You're probably behind a spotter the majority of the day. But for elk, you're not glassing a lot, but the elk aren't very active, from about 10 to 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can kind of hike around at that time, but you're not super active the majority of the day.
Right, so you have to have clothes that when you need to move, you can and you're not sweating up a storm. But I mean, you're still sitting for long periods of time, and you need good gear to be able to maintain your body temperature, right?
Definitely. And that's kind of the biggest thing. I because I we would be hiking, and I'm a good temperature. I'm not really sweating, but once we stop and I take my pack off, I almost immediately get cold. And so I really have to layer up, and I had to play with my system a little bit and really kind of figure out what worked for me this year. So it was a kind of a trial period while out in the field.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like a lot of time Eastern hunters, they're like, oh, Western hunters, they're just always on the move and they're always moving and they're always hiking. I'm like, no, that's kind of what they show you on TV because that's what's something going on and it's entertaining and they're covering ground. Like, they're not going to sit there and run a camera on somebody sitting for 4 hours glassing for mule deer, but you guys still have to sit for long periods of time. So, yeah, I just know that for myself personally, I do a lot of hiking and then sitting, and it's like you got to have two sets of clothing almost. So what have you found for you? I mean, right, it's not like the best kept secret in the world. A lot of women tend to get colder faster than what guys do. So what do you do to keep yourself warm? Because, like, I've bought some pretty good gear for my wife, and I mean, she still gets cold pretty fast, and I know there's better stuff out there, but I don't really necessarily know what the best route to go is. So what works for you?
So what I kind of found this year is I ran First Light clothing pretty much all season, and I really loved it. I love their merinos and their base layers. They were awesome for me. But what I kind of found is I had to wear I think it's the Kiln hoodie, so it's more of like a mid-weight base layer merino, and I would wear that to just hike around, and then I would always have kind of in like the snow collar of my backpack, I would have my I think it's the Aurora puffy. So it's not like a huge bulky puffy, but it's just kind of a thin, very insulated jacket. So anytime I stopped, I would just throw that on immediately, and that would prevent me from getting cold.
And then I'm assuming that you have, I mean, is that what you're sleeping in as well? I mean, obviously you got a good sleeping bag, but I mean, just for me, like when it dips down into the 20s, man, it seems like I get pretty cold. Like, I'll wear my gear to sleep into. Do you have to do that, or do you have a good enough sleeping bag where you can just peel down to your base layers and sleep in a bag?
Oh, I pretty much sleep in all the clothes that I have.
Yeah.
I sleep in my base layer, a mid layer jacket, and then that puffy and a beanie to kind of keep my heat in, and I sleep in basically all my clothes just so I can stay warm.
Right. That's what I do now too. I only made that mistake one time where I didn't take enough clothing and slept in like 28 degrees, and I woke up in the morning.
Oh man.
And I'm like, 28 degrees isn't too bad. Well, yeah, when you're trying to sleep for 6 hours and you're not moving, it's literally like sleeping in a freezer. And
yeah,
it was not a fun night. So I have a way better system. Way better system. Way better system now. Do you, I'm assuming you have rain gear. Do you use First Light rain gear as well?
I did, yeah. Yep, and I just got some Sitka rain gear too to try out for when I'm able to go out next. But
so did you say First Light pants as well?
I actually ran the Prana pants.
Oh,
so
yep.
I'm a little bit taller. I've got longer legs, and so finding pants that fit me is pretty impossible. But those Pranas, I live in those things, and I'm archery hunting, so I don't need something too heavy.
Right.
And they're perfect for early season archery, and I can always layer a base layer underneath if it does happen to get cold.
Right. Those are my favorite pants in the whole world.
They are amazing.
I know. I made the mistake of working in a pair of mine last week and kind of destroyed them, and I'm pissed at myself for doing that. But
Oh,
I just, once you start to wear those and you try to put like a pair of jeans or something else on, you're like, get this stuff off of me. I can't move.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
I know they're so comfy. Like they fit
Right.
perfectly.
Yep. No, they do. They fit well, and they don't impede your mobility whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of those Prana pants too, man. I'm really impressed with I don't know how long you've had yours, but they are durable. Like I've put mine through a lot of shit, and they look pretty similar to how they looked when I got them.
Yeah, and I've taken them on scouting trips and deadfall, like ridiculous deadfall, and they're, branches getting scraped up, and there's like absolutely no holes, which
Yep.
I would take a step and I was sure that there was going to be a giant hole in it, but there wasn't. So they're awesome. They're not too expensive either, so they're a really good option for anyone on a budget.
Yeah, Aaron's actually the one that turned me on to Prana
Yeah.
pants, and I went in search of them from him talking about them, and yep, I absolutely love those as well. And then yeah, like you said, if it's a little colder out, I can put a merino base layer under them, and they're just super versatile, great for being on the move.
Oh yeah, definitely. They do get a little big, but
Yeah.
they're awesome for pretty much anything.
So I mean, I gotta imagine there's situations where you're still getting cold, because I know what kind of puffy you're talking about, and they're amazing. I mean, they're really warm, but if you're sitting for a long period of time, especially if there's wind, you'll get through there eventually. I mean, do you have a backup jacket or something, or is that kind of it?
So I do. I take my Kifaru puffy as kind of my backup, and that was one thing, is wind. I did struggle a little bit with wind. None of those layers have that wind stopper in them, and so I think that was kind of one thing that lacked in my gear this year.
Right.
But the women's line, the First Light women's line, is a little bit limited, and so I had every piece I could get, and none of those really included that wind stopper.
Yeah. The wind stopper stuff, I don't know. I mean, it helps, but too, wind just is, I mean, there's no replacement for just bulking up on insulation. So you have a Lost Parka? Is that what you're talking about, the Kifaru puffy?
Yeah. Yep, and I keep that with me at all times. I actually did get cold with it. I went out opening weekend for elk, and I didn't bring that First Light parka or the First Light puffy, because I had my Kifaru parka, and I got pretty cold that weekend.
Yeah.
But I packed extra pretty much the rest of the season just to prepare for that.
And then are you doing just like a traditional, like a beanie and a neck gaiter, or what are you doing for your face and your neck to keep heat in?
I have like a neck gaiter, and then I wear just usually a snapback hat, and then a beanie at night.
Gotcha.
So the hat for hiking around.
I gotcha. And then are your extremities always cold? I mean, fingers and toes, or are you able to regulate that pretty good?
They do get a little cold, but it's not. It doesn't cause me any issues to where it's not to the extreme. Gotcha. Really.
What kind of boots have you found that work good for you?
I wore Salewas this year. They're a pretty lightweight boot, what I had, but they actually, I found out they're supposed to be waterproof, but they're not very waterproof, this
Mm-hmm.
pair that I have. And I've emailed them about it, their warranty department, because they're supposed to be waterproof, but they weren't. And
Yeah.
so I found that out a little too late when I was walking through some marshy stuff, and I'm, not too happy about that, but I'll probably run some other brand boots from here on out.
Yeah, Gore-Tex. I'm assuming they're Gore-Tex boots, and
Yeah.
this is the first year in probably 4 or 5 years that I went back to a Gore-Tex boot, just because the amount of miles that I'm traveling. A lot of Midwestern guys, when we hunt whitetail, they wear rubber knee boots because a lot of
Mhm.
times, you are in deep water, and rubber boots are really the only way to stay dry, because like I've found, even like a new Gore-Tex boot, like a good Gore-Tex boot, if you're in constantly wet stuff, probably looking at like 4 to 6 hours until that stuff pushes through there, and then you're done. Like, you have wet
Yeah.
feet. So I'm still in the struggle of, like, I almost feel like I need to have two pairs of boots with me for what I do. A pair of rubber boots, like, strapped to my backpack, and a pair of hiking boots to get where I need to go. But like, we're often, we might hike a mile and a half through like a swamp or whatever, and then sit, 20 foot up in a tree in 15 degrees all day.
Yeah.
So it's like it's always a constant struggle. It's like, I'm still working on my system, and I want it to. I don't like being cold. I get
Yeah.
fidgety. I don't. It doesn't make me miserable. It makes me a bad hunter, because I
Yeah.
start to get fidgety, and I just don't like moving around. Like, I feel like it's just the number one thing that gets you in trouble is movement, and if you're cold, you're moving around. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of Eastern hunting, it's really, I don't know. I've been learning more about it, and the gear system for what you do. Gear's a lot more important for whitetail hunting. Sitting in a stand, and that's all. I'm learning more about that, and it's very interesting to
Yeah, I
me.
can.
It's
Well, the mountains are obviously their own beast, like with the wind and whatnot, but I can stay pretty comfortable on the ground no matter what. But once you're elevated in a tree like 20 feet, and you're really, I mean, you're just hung out to dry, essentially exposed to the elements from all sides. And
yeah,
so you have nothing retaining heat on any side of you, and it just sucks the heat right out of you. So yeah, I mean, it requires some heavier clothing, and it's a work in progress for me. I was looking at a picture that somebody took of me when we were hunting a couple weekends ago. I think I had 6 different brands of gear on. But
yeah,
I'm a freak about the stuff like fitting correctly,
yeah,
especially one piece over another or under another, to where it's not like binding or being tight, and I have some air movement in between the pieces. And for me, like you were saying, everyone's a different build, right?
right.
So sometimes what works for some people doesn't work for others. But I was just generally, like, interested in what you had found, because obviously I know that you have pretty good resources at your fingertips, and those guys weren't going to let you go out there and be miserable. So I figured your
Yeah.
learning curve would go a little faster than others. So I was super curious as to kind of where you were with your layering. And I'm looking at things for, my wife. She's wants to spend more and more time outside, and just, oh my God,
Yeah.
try to go locally and find stuff is for women is it's a joke.
Yeah, it's definitely very different, like, because I listen to Aaron and Frank and everything that they have to say, and I mean, for what they do and for men, there's no better information out there. Like, they know what they're talking about. Women are a little bit different, and you know, they they can't account for everything because they haven't experienced it. They just don't quite know everything. And so coming getting a woman's perspective on that gear does definitely help, because just men and women are different. So that's something that you have to pay attention to.
Right. Have you found any good resources for like women getting into hunting, like podcasts or gear stuff, women that actually like talk about gear, or is there anybody that you would recommend for girls that are, getting into?
Um, I found this. I listened to the Gritty Bowman podcast,
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit, and I found a ladies hunting camp that they started in Oregon, and then they did it last year for the first time out in Utah.
I heard
So I
about
signed up
this.
for that. Yeah, that was a really great resource for me. But I just kind of tried to absorb all the information that I could, and not necessarily for women, but all the information, just hunting in general, not necessarily gender specific, because it relays pretty well, not always perfectly, but there it was all really good information. And that was, a lot from Aaron and Brian on the Gritty Bowman podcast, and then other, various places, some people on social media, lots of podcasts, lots of, YouTube videos on archery. And that's really where I focus. Most of my stuff is archery and just becoming a better archer. And then on the gear side, pretty much Aaron, just asking him whatever he thinks and talking through it with him, bouncing ideas off him, and then other people in the community here. The Denver community is awesome as far as bow hunting goes. So I've been very lucky to meet other women here that are pretty serious into bow hunting as well. And then we talk about things, and I don't think anybody's quite as obsessed as I am, but I I do what I can, and try and find other like-minded people.
Did you say you went to that hunting camp?
Yes, I did.
And I know, I think I know what that is. Was that like it was almost like a retreat, like just a women's hunting camp, right?
Right.
But they
Yep,
have it's like a organized with like some educational stuff and whatnot. Am I correct?
Yep. Yeah, they have classes that are, taught by other women in the industry, and who've had a little bit of experience. And so it's just a really good environment to where you don't have to go out and be intimidated by men. If you are, I'm not saying men are intimidating, but in some instances it's a little bit easier to learn from other women versus, maybe your husband or your boyfriend, something like that.
Yeah. So that was something that was a positive experience and you might recommend for people to do.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's great just to build relationships with other like-minded women. That is another thing that has been very difficult, is finding other women who share your same interests. So finding those friends is huge.
Where what do you know what that is called? I'm curious about that because it's kind of a unique thing that they do.
Yeah, it's just called Ladies Hunting Camp, and
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the website for it as well. It's just Ladies Hunting Camp.
Right on. Yeah, I might try to. I'll try to find that and link that in the show notes. I say that I'm gonna do that often. I don't actually follow through, but I will do that on that one. I'll find that one and post that there because I know that is a unique thing, and that's cool that they go through the effort to do that. And like you were saying, building those relationships and those bonds. I don't know. I mean, the
Yeah.
people that I hunt with are like, those are the people that I look forward to talking to the most. When I get a phone call like from a friend that I hunt with, it's like it's not typically going to be a bad conversation ever. Like
Yeah.
it's different wavelength of friendship, I think.
Yeah. It bonds you in a different way. Like hunting, you have like this bond that you can't recreate that or get that in any other way. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. It's its own complete unique experience that can't be replicated, or at least I haven't found a way to replicate it. So,
Yeah, me either.
well, right on. We kind of covered right through exactly what I wanted to do. Is there anything that you think that I kind of missed or that you'd like to mention before I let you go here about, like, I don't know, as somebody, like I said, that got into this and hasn't been doing it their whole life, about what people potentially that would hear this conversation and could impact somebody into, you know, getting more into hunting versus being opposed to it?
Yeah. Um, I think the biggest thing is don't be scared to ask questions. I mean, when I first got into it, I didn't want to ask anybody for help. I'm probably a little bit too independent for my own good sometimes, and so I didn't want to ask people for help. But you need to, and you need to ask for the right help. Don't ask just anybody you can find. Really, really find good information, and don't be scared to get out and try it, because it's amazing, and it's awesome.
It'll change your life, won't it?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do with my time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I work, I go to the gym, I go and shoot my bow. And that's pretty much what I do year round, and then hunting season I'm out hunting as much as possible.
well, that's killer, and it's good. You're part of the movement in the right direction. I obviously follow you on Instagram, and you do a nice job with your social media of like putting a good, there's there's definitely some women on social media that put interesting spins on what you might portray yourself as a quote unquote huntress, but
Yeah.
you're getting it right. So,
Well, thank you. I try to, keep everything positive and real. I just try to be as real as I can be.
well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this tonight. If anybody wants to, oh, are your cupcakes done?
Cupcakes are done.
Perfect timing. Um, People can come in and see you if they're in the Denver area at the front desk in Kifaru, right? But
Yep.
you
Yep, I'm right up front.
you you're on Instagram, and then you also run a bit of the Kifaru social media as well, right? So,
Yeah. Yep, I help with Kifaru's pages and then my own as well.
and you guys got a photo contest that's wrapping up tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Is it
Yep.
really tomorrow?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we should be having another one too. So
Oh, sweet.
a lot of the whitetail, is picking up
Right.
about this time of year. So we're gonna do another one for all those whitetail hunters so they could get in on it as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I've been going through there every couple days when I see somebody post something and it has that hashtag. I'll click on there and just go and look through that gallery, and that's pretty.
Yeah.
There's some pretty awesome photos in there.
Yeah. There are some really nice photos. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. It's gonna be hard to pick winners.
Right. So what are you guys gonna do? Are you guys gonna have a panel and sit around and try to figure out who likes what, or you got some calculated system, or?
Not really. Frank and Aaron are in Alberta right now,
Yeah.
so I I think Aaron may get back in time to take a look, but it'll probably just be me picking out a few. I might send them over to those guys, see what they think, see if they have any input, and then it's mostly just me. I kind of handle things while they're gone.
Yeah, I thought Aaron might be the critic and the final judge because he's obviously pretty mentally invested in photography at this point.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And he obviously knows a lot more about photography than I do, but that's okay.
It all comes down to what, it's art. Everybody's opinion's different, I mean, obviously with something like photography, there's quote unquote a wrong and a right way to do things, but I mean, if you like a picture, who's to tell you that you don't like that one more than this one for what reason? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you can just do it so many different ways and still do it well. So it's a fun thing.
Right. Yeah, we've been touching on it, here in the last couple months, just because we are right now getting into like the peak of our deer season, and people are posting a ton of photos of dead animals, and that can both help and hurt the cause. So try to just make a conscious effort to do a good job of like being a good representative and just showing a little bit of respect and trying to not put people off.
Right. And I mean, I've seen you guys tag us in pretty much everything. So your photos are awesome. It's awesome that you show the process throughout the hunting. So that I think you guys do a good job of that.
Well, thanks. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be too heartbroken if we had a few more kills on our page, but that time is coming.
Yes.
So yes, it is a journey, it's a process. Nothing's given. We will get there. So we're getting ready. Well, a week from Friday, we leave for 10 days. So.
Oh, nice.
And so we'll be gone for 10 days, and then our season, we go till January. So.
Wow.
Yep. Honestly, October for me is just a bonus. Like my real deer hunting doesn't even start until like November to the middle of December for me is like when I typically am able to find success. So we're just getting into it right now, and I'm really looking forward to it. So
that's awesome. Well, good luck. I hope to see those photos of some animals on the ground for you.
Well, thank you. And thanks for spending the time to do this tonight. I really, truly did enjoy the conversation. And, I hope people share this, with people that might have the thought that they want to be part of this community and, dial down that intimidation factor, ask questions, get educated, and go hunting.
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you having me. I mean, I definitely don't feel on the level that I need to be speaking to anybody, but I do appreciate you having me.
There's a lot of people that are in the same position as you are in their path. We don't just always need to hear from quote unquote experts. Like everybody's at their own spot. So these are important conversations to have. So. Well, thank you, Dayna. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you.